Today I'll be sharing my impressions of using the Insta360 X4 for the past couple of weeks and ultimately let you know whether that's a good purchase or not, at least in my opinion. Let's check it out.
Always first at the finish line, first to the plate when it's dinner time, first to the skate when this shit goes down and these motherfucking clowns finna finish mine. Flow too real, hit it with a rhythm round. Tim's on cause it's cold in the winter time. I'm a boss, yeah, you know that I'm finna shine. Got the money in the bank like it's intertwined.
Right, so the X4 is a very important camera in my opinion for the 360 community, as GoPro has been really falling behind with their GoPro Max, which hasn't been updated in ages it seems, and Insta360 has a release cycle of about 2 years for their X cameras, and now we have the X4, which of course brings a whole new set of features, improvements, and things that I of course will talk about in today's video. Starting out first, we have 8K resolution of this camera, and I think this is arguably the most important feature that this camera brings, bringing up the whole resolution from 5.7K to 8K, which is a big deal. And of course 8K is not the final usable image that you'll end up with, but 8K is the whole area that the camera captures from both of these cameras. And then when you reframe your shot, when you end up with a final usable shot, this is going to be now 4K as opposed to 2.7K on the X3. So that definitely brings up the whole image quality a whole lot more on the X4, which is a great thing to see. I've been very pleasantly surprised to see that the image quality has been increased, and now what you end up using just looks sharper, crispier, and more vibrant, and just richer in terms of colors and contrast. So the image quality is definitely a step up coming from the X3. With that being said though, even though this camera records in 8K, the file size is not massive. It's very usable and it's not really hard on your computer, as this camera records in H.265, which is a very light codec and enabling you to easily edit your footage even on your phone. But of course, I prefer to do that on my computer, which is still a great easy way to edit your footage. It's not really hard on the computer, on the processing power. In addition to that, we have a bigger display, which has been upgraded from 2.29 inches to 2.5 inches. It's very responsive, very full of information. You can easily access your settings and tweak them on the fly. It's just a nice, colorful, bright display that of course helps you quickly navigate through the different shooting modes, through the different settings, so you can easily access them and change them and then start shooting straight away, which of course is the biggest power of this camera. The fact that you don't really have to frame your shot, you can easily just set your shooting mode, set your settings, change them quickly, and then just start shooting and just hold the camera or mount the camera on something and you will get the shot no matter what, because it's a 360 camera. Of course, it records everything around it, and you can easily reframe your shot afterwards with the help, of course, of the invisible selfie stick, which is completely invisible in the final shot. And this year I'm seeing so many more accessories helping you to mount this camera on pretty much any surface or any thing you want to get the shot and make something creative with it. And I'm really happy to see that Insta360 is just going all in when it comes to the accessories, to the mounting points, to the different companies they're collaborating with. This year they came out with their new suction cup mount for attaching this camera on a car, which is a collaboration with Tilta. We've seen some other collaborations in the past before, and I'm happy to see that they are collaborating with established companies who know what they're doing, and they're bringing out some great accessories that will help you elevate your shots and just take them to the next level with this camera. Something else which I'm very happy to see that comes in the box with the camera are these standard lens guards, which has been one of my biggest complaints when it comes to 360 cameras, the fact that the lenses just protrude too much. Obviously that's the idea of the camera, but they are very easy to damage or to scratch, which of course has been a big problem for many people. Well, now Insta360 came out with these lens guards, which are super convenient, super easy to attach. You simply twist them and they're good to go. Now, don't mind the fact that they're super greasy with fingerprints, and they need to be of course wiped to be clean, and so you can use them straight away. But the fact is that these lens guards are going to save the lens when it comes to maybe some action sports, some risky situations where you might just damage the lens, or even if you just put it a little bit more firmly on the ground and there's a little rock or something, a piece of something, I don't know, even a small grain of salt or a grain of sand could be an issue for the lens. So now having this and the fact that it's so easy to replace and to remove makes this a big deal and a big help for any creator who wants to capture some more risky shots. Now, these are the standard lens guards, which are, I would say, standardly durable, but they offer a premium version which is a little bit more durable, which is made with tempered glass and is completely scratch resistant. This is not completely scratch resistant, so keep in mind, if you're going to use this camera for some really dodgy, risky shots that require a lot of, durability, then you might want to maybe to spend a few bucks more and to buy the premium guards. But these standard ones come in the box, which is super cool, super convenient. And the only thing you need to do after you twist them is to go into the menus, swipe down and enable the stitching for standard guards, because the camera has to know that these guards have been applied so it can stitch the footage a little bit better and give you optimal results. With 360 cameras, and especially the Insta360 X series of cameras, we've always had an amazing flow state stabilization, and this time we are seeing it once again. And you already know the flow state stabilization, one of the best types of stabilization that we can get on any action camera. It is absurd how well it stabilizes everything, how well it can give you a horizon steady shot, or just stabilize your bumpy footage that you've been shooting on a motorbike, for example, or on a quad bike or on a drone, or pretty much anything. It will smoothen it completely and give you a very usable result. And one thing I am very happy to see as well is the inclusion of Motion ND, which is a new feature from Insta360, which applies kind of like a motion blur to your footage afterwards. Because this camera doesn't come with ND filters, and most people don't use any type of ND filters, the reality is sometimes you want some more motion blur, some more realistic motion to be seen in your footage. However, with the increase of the shutter speed, that motion blur just completely goes away. So now Motion ND is a cool new feature that enables motion blur to be added automatically to your footage from Insta360 Studio or from the app itself. You can add it with just a press of a button. And although it doesn't work in 100% of the situations, it can be used in some situations to kind of focus your attention towards the object of the video, towards the subject of the video, and just blur the rest of the footage. Whereas in some scenarios, it will just kind of mess up your whole footage. So it's not ideal to be used on every single piece of footage that you record with this camera, but it's great to have this option, as like I said, this camera doesn't have any filters. So for some situations where you need that motion blur, it's nice to have that option to apply it. I've already talked about the fact that this camera shoots in 8K 30 frames per second. This is for your regular situations where you want normal speed of your footage, but if you want to slow down your footage, or you want to really emphasize on on the action that you are capturing with this camera, you have two more options to use. So you can have 5.7K at 60 frames per second or 4K at 100 frames per second on the X4. So depending on how much you want to slow down the footage, you can choose one of the two. Personally, I would advise you to use 5.7K at 60 frames per second, because otherwise you're sacrificing way too much resolution for that slow motion footage. But it's really up to you on what type of shots you want to slow down. The improved battery life of the X4 is one big surprise for me. That was definitely a very pleasant one. So you have up to 75 minutes of runtime while recording 8K footage on the X4, which is quite a lot, and it's more than many other action cameras that we have on the market right now, especially considering the fact that this records in 8K, which is obviously insane. So while using this camera, I was able to kind of experiment a little bit more, use it in different situations with different mounting points, and to just capture a little bit more footage that I can obviously show you here in today's video. So I'm happy to see that the battery has been improved drastically. I think it's about 60 to 70% better than the X3, which is quite a lot. And it's huge. It's a pretty big one. So it's understandable that it holds so much more juice for longer periods of time, especially compared to the X3. But overall, I think the look and the feel of this camera is fantastic. It's very rugged. It has a very premium feel to it. All the buttons are tactile, are responsive on the outside. The touchscreen, of course, is also very responsive. Now, one thing I noticed while shooting some shots with my friend on the quad bike is because of the vibrations of the quad bike, the camera's buttons were not really responsive. I think the recording button here on the lower left-hand side of the camera was not acting properly and didn't really respond well to my commands, because of the vibrations from the quad. But that's the only time when I had any issues with the buttons or with the interface or with the camera in general. So one thing I just had to share was that. Another favorite feature of mine on the X4 is called the Me mode, which you can enable from the settings, and then you only need to use the selfie stick and extend it probably 3/4 of the way, and then the camera will track you automatically. It will keep you in the middle of the shot, so no matter which way you turn, you will still be in the middle of the shot, which saves you so much precious time. If you don't want to reframe your shot afterwards, you don't have the time to edit your footage afterwards, you can use this mode and kind of get your footage as soon as possible and use it straight away, which is extremely important sometimes, and it saves you so much trouble and so much time. I love this feature for vlogging especially. Now, of course, Insta360 is adding all of these modes to show you that you can use this camera as your one and only go-to action camera that can record everything you like. So whether you want to capture 360 footage, you can do that. If you want to use it as an action camera, you can use it with single lens video, which you can enable and just choose which side you want to use and use that as an action camera and record 4K 60 frames per second footage with it. You can use Me mode to automatically capture the middle of the shot and keep it in the frame no matter where you turn the camera to. So that can give you a ready to use straight away footage that you can share in a matter of seconds. So those are things that really make this camera a must-have for any content creator who wants that flexibility, because previously, if there was one thing that was missing, was the fact that it kind of, this camera or the previous iterations of this cameras were just missing the mark when it comes to the image quality, in my opinion, because sometimes the image was a little bit mushy or a little bit lower resolution, whereas now with the X4 we have 8K, which when reframed can give you a output of 4K usable image that you can share and use in your videos, which is of course a big step up and arguably the biggest change with this camera. So that's probably my favorite thing about this camera, the fact that it can give me very crispy, very good looking image that is very smooth as well with the flow state stabilization. So overall, a very flexible camera that can give you a variety of different shots. It's just a matter of your imagination to really decide what you want to capture with it. So these are my overall impressions of the X4 as of right now after using it for the past 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm not done with this camera, as I really want to explore more with it. And I want to explore time lapses, for example, as this camera can create 11K time lapses, which is simply mind-blowing. I have a lot of areas and places planned to go to and visit and capture some time lapses. I don't want to just go and shoot city traffic time lapses, for example. I have more interesting things planned with this camera, and I also want to use this camera kind of like my behind the scenes camera, because I want to bring you with me when I'm shooting my videos. I want to show you how I shoot my videos, how I do things, and I think I want to incorporate a little bit more personal stuff that I do on a daily basis here on the channel, and I think this camera will help me do that because it's so easy to use. You can just set it and forget it, and that will be very helpful for me and my channel in the long run. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and the shots that I was able to create with the X4. Let me know what you think about this camera down in the comment section below, and I would love to read your comments. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll catch you in the next one very, very soon. Take care and ciao.